Emil Guillermo. Emil Amok to you. Welcome my takeout, my Emil Amok's takeout. We got the tinsel out on the gong. We're decorating the gong because it's getting that time, right? We're talking Christmas. We're talking the holidays. It's feeling like it. It's cold. We weren't going to do this today. We were going to do something. I mean, we were just going to replay yesterday because there was so much news yesterday, but it turns out there's so much news today. We got to talk about the Supreme Court. We mentioned it yesterday, but now the Supreme Court has said that they made two rulings. One, they said that the gerrymandering maps of Texas can be applied. That is a victory for the Trump administration. And then in another sort of semi-victory, a lower court ruling that said birthright citizenship can stand. Well, the Trump administration appealed to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court said, well, we're going to hear that case. So, of course, I want to talk to Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend, who we usually talk to about these matters on Friday. So he's standing by. We'll call him. We'll talk about birthright. We'll talk about the gerrymandering case. But first, before we do that, I just want to mention, you see the crawl here, Emil Amok's Takeout. This Saturday, I'm going to be in Berkeley. I'll be emceeing the Pan Oakland Josephine Miles Awards. 36 years of that. And yet they don't call them the Josies. They should call them the Josies. They don't call them the Josies. Like the Oscars or the Emmys and the Grammys. No. It's the Josephine Miles Award. She was a poet and a professor at UC Berkeley. The Pan Oakland Awards, Pan stands for Poets, Essayists, and Novelists. It's the working class PAN. PAN is an international organization. The Oakland chapter, I'm proud to be a board member. That's why I'm emceeing with Tennessee Reed. See the awards, the 36th annual awards. It's free. It's at the Berkeley Rep. If you want to know what the literary grassroots scene is like, check it out. Berkeley Rep on Adeline in Berkeley. It's free tomorrow at 2 o'clock. And lots of awardees, very diverse, very multicultural. William Wong, former Oakland Tribune columnist, will be honored. He's going to be honored for Sons of Chinatown, his book from 2024. Some other people there will also honor the late poet Jack Foley, who was a board member, and we'll give him it's not going to be the big memorial send-off because I think there's one planned by the family later, but we'll be having a very special portion of the program dedicated to Jack, local poet based in Oakland, was on KPFA. Other writers there. I know that Joy Reid is not going to be there, but she's being honored. Joy Reid, the former MSNBC anchor, commentator. And Ishmael Reed will also be there, co-founder of Pan Oakland. So it's going to be a good gathering of East Bay, Northern California literary folks, Oakland poets, essayists, novelists, Pan Oakland, the working class Pan. Catch them tomorrow, Saturday, 2 p.m. at the Black Repertory Theater in Berkeley. It's free, 2 p.m. Catch that. And also, if you're interested in stuff that I'm doing Christmas, December 15th at the Marsh in San Francisco, 7 o'clock. The Monday Night Marsh, I'm doing a little 20-minute series of stories, Christmas stories about the season. So catch that on Monday, December 15th. And then if you say, hey, I missed that Emil Amok 69 show you were doing, I'm going to do an iteration of that in San Francisco at Potrero Hill at the Solo Fest, the Playground Solo Fest in Potrero Hill. So catch that. And you can catch that I'll put a link on my website, amok.com. and find out how you get tickets. It's it's essentially free, and your ticket is a donation that I believe, you can write off. So what a deal, right? You get to support an artist, you get the freebie from that a foundation gives, and you get to see some live performance, which is the key. Anyway, that's in January. Go to amok.com, my website, and get more information on that. I'll post it later on today. All right, so let's get to the news. When I saw this happen, I said, we've got to update yesterday's show, at least when we talk about SCOTUS and the Supreme Court, because of these two rulings. One on gerrymandering yesterday, it broke late yesterday, and the one today, which said that they would look into the birthright citizenship case. So let me bring on Professor Daniel Phil Gonzalez, Professor Emeritus, Asian American Studies, San Francisco State University, my friend of the show, and also a JD. So you know the law, Dan. You know you've been following the
it
Supreme
stands
Court.
for juvenile delinquent.
Yeah. Well, we know that. We know that.
True. It's true.
We know that. Well, Dan, I guess it really comes as no surprise that the Trump administration got the Supreme Court to hear the birthright citizenship case. Or was it a surprise? I guess it could have said no, we're going to honor the lower court. But was that really in question?
No, because if you know the recent decisions, no, it's not in question. If you're just a general member of the public or an interested person in politics and law, you probably wouldn't know. But the most recent decision that had real meaning in terms of the direction that the Supreme Court might go if these kinds of issues were raised, and we knew that they would be raised, because they were raised as as theoretical accusations against the Biden administration. Okay, and that the Rucho case was decided during the first Trump administration, and so you could see the direction that the Supreme Court was likely to go in at that time. And the Rucho case essentially said gerrymandering is beyond. Are we talking birthright or gerrymander?
We're talking birthright now.
Okay,
first birthright.
This is wrong case. But the birthright direction, they raised that issue as well during the first Trump administration, and they kept raising it again, and it was one of the reasons that goes counter immigration that Trump ran on. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, he raised it from day one, and just so that we are on the same page in terms of the news. This is from the New York Times. Supreme Court agrees to review Trump order restricting birthright citizenship. And I just want to read the 3-paragraph lead. The Supreme Court announced Friday that it would hear a landmark dispute over the constitutionality of President Trump's effort to end birthright citizenship. To end it, the legal fight stems from an executive order signed by the president on his first day back in office, declaring that children born to undocumented immigrants and to some temporary foreign residents would no longer be granted citizenship automatically. And that has always been the law. Automatic citizenship if you were born on American soil.
14th Amendment is guaranteed under the 14th Amendment.
Right. The executive order, which was immediately paused by courts without going into effect, would upend the commonly accepted view of American citizenship guaranteed since 1898, that citizenship should be extended to anyone born in the United States. The Times says it could throw into doubt the citizenship of hundreds of thousands of babies each year. And the court has not announced a date to hear oral arguments, but the justices will most likely hear the case in the next few months. A decision, says the Times, would then be expected by the end of June or early July. And wouldn't that be nice for Donald Trump as he celebrates the 250th anniversary of our democracy? And he says, and we're going to make a change. If you have a baby on American soil, I'm sorry, you're not a citizen automatically.
That's right.
That that would be quite. I mean, it's long been seen as settled law, not settled. It's because the Supreme Court is butting its head. It's not settled.
Three Supreme Court justices
Hmm.
that were nominated under the first Trump administration all said that Roe versus Wade is settled law,
Hmm.
and they all overturned it once they were in office, once they sat on the bench, Supreme
Hmm.
Court. Okay,
Yeah.
so everybody can claim that it's settled law. It's clear in the Constitution itself, under the 14th Amendment. And so it would either take an act of Congress or an act of the SCOTUS of the Supreme Court to interpret it differently. Okay, and that's what they're going to try to do. They're going to try to interpret the obvious black and white language of the 14th Amendment and say, well, there it's only logical that there be limitations. Who were the people that were intended to be the beneficiaries of the 14th Amendment clause on birthright?
Yeah.
Citizenship. That's what they're going to do. That's
Right.
my feeling. The only thing that they
Yeah.
can possibly do, because if they try to do this via other means, Congress will step up, because I believe that the Democrats will at least win the lower house next year. Now, I've asked the same question here before, and that is, so what? Will the Democrats have the courage, okay, and the political fortitude, right, to the political force to do what's necessary to attack these changes that are being made by the Trump administration in short in short time, and this
Mhm.
very quickly? They've done this, and it's all in Project 2025.
Yeah.
He's
Hey, now,
not
Dan.
there. He's not doing it. Trump himself denied it, says I don't have anything to do with it. I don't even know. I never looked at it. I will believe him when he says I never read it, because he doesn't read anything.
Yeah.
Comics Illustrated is,
That's
that
about
that's
it.
too much for him.
Well, could we see the same thing happen with birthright citizenship happen, or what's happened with abortion happen in birthright citizenship, meaning that it gets kicked back to the states and each state can decide how they view this. I mean, but although states can't do that because they
No,
don't
no,
they can't get grant citizenship.
that's right. That is not a state power. It's an exclusive federal power,
Yeah. So it's got to be Congress or the Supreme Court, and
and the
that's it.
Supreme Court will do it faster. And
Yeah.
I can guarantee you they're going to put some limitations on birthright citizenship.
Well, right now you have three. They didn't have a formal vote, but they had three
Dissents.
justices. They
Yeah.
had Alito, Thomas, and Gorsuch voting on the side of, yeah, let's review this. And then you had Kagan, Sotomayor, and Ketanji Brown Jackson voting on the side of, you know, why are we going forward with this? They were dissenters. Um, and if that's the case, it looks like we have 3 and 3 known. Is there some wiggle room that might tell us who might be on the winning side? Roberts, uh,
Coney
um,
Barrett,
Tony Barrett, and
Kavanaugh.
Kavanaugh. Yeah, but they,
Yeah, well, there's always a chance. There's always a chance, and I said the best you're going to get out of this court on these kinds of issues is 5-4,
yeah,
and the question is always which two will
yeah,
side with the typical, let's say, critics of Trump policy and Project 2025 policy, right?
mhm.
So it's all predictable. It's very predictable,
and,
Emil.
and,
That's
and
the
so,
problem.
well, what should people now? Uh, I mean, they know this thing will be heard with a decision possibly by June or July. What should, I guess, if you're pregnant.
People who believe in birthright citizenship should be screaming it out loud every day, okay,
Mhm.
and screaming it particularly at their congressional representatives, whatever their party affiliation might be. Okay, they need to
Mhm.
be doing that. They need to be also organizing at least on the talk to talk neighborly basis, right, and ask people whether or not they believe in birthright citizenship. Here's the problem. I think 40% of Americans would say, nah, that's too much. Giving people an automatic right just because they're born here, that's too much. And you know why? Because they're racist. That's
Yeah.
why. They want to
Well.
protect whiteness in American society. I know, once again, I'm going to sound radical as hell, okay? But the
Mhm.
reality is, okay, now people are talking in terms of what white, not just white privilege, they're talking in terms of what white supremacy means. And what you're doing, you're seeing it, you're witnessing it right now.
Mhm.
However difficult it is to accept, I have
Yeah.
a hard time accepting that.
Yeah.
I have
Well.
taught about it for over 50 years, and in every inch and every moment that I've had to deal with this issue, it's been
Mhm.
difficult for me from an
Yeah.
emotional point of view as well as from a professional, legal, political point of view.
Well, the argument has always been that, well, what the conservatives will say is this 14th Amendment was always intended to grant citizenship
To
to
freed
and stay with
slaves.
to freed
That's right.
slaves,
That's
and
right.
it wasn't for immigrants. It wasn't for quote foreigners,
That's
but
wrong.
now.
The reality is that there was a more progressive element within Congress, just as there is a radical right extremist racist element, right,
Mhm.
in Congress and in the general population. Okay, because those people wouldn't be in Congress unless there was a general portion of the general population that supported that and believed in these things. Okay,
Yeah.
there is also a progressive or liberal side. And those people understood that the language that they were adopting into the 14th Amendment had potentially broad applications. And they intended that. So just as the right argues that that was not the intent, there is reality is if you look at the history and you look at the documentation of the actual arguments on the floor of Congress, the left definitely intended that. Now, in those days, the left was Republican Party. you
Yeah, right.
know,
And the thing is, most of them were adopting laws that were fairly standard. I mean, this is like English common law. Yeah, you're born on the soil. You
that's right.
are
It's the soil
you
argument. That's correct.
yeah. You are a bird by
There's
being
that.
born
There's
on the
that.
soil.
There's that Harvard history background. You know.
Well, wait a minute.
Yeah.
But also, look, let us not forget the Wong Kim Ark, Mr. Wong,
Yeah,
born in San Francisco.
the one case, right? The
Yeah.
one case of the 19th century that went in the direction of an Asian American.
Yeah, born in San Francisco,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
goes back to China to visit family,
Just a
comes
vacation.
back,
That's right.
is
And they said,
halted.
no, you can't come in
Yeah.
because you ain't a citizen.
So, I mean, this case has really stood the test of time since 1898, and
Yes,
it's meant something to Asian Americans
yes.
in the Bay Area,
And
in
it's
San
terrific.
Francisco.
Yes, it's terrific. It's a terrific case because as soon as you see the name Wong Kim Ark, you know who it's about.
Yeah,
You know it's about, at least you know that it's got to be about some kind of Asian. Okay,
yeah,
and if you've had any contact with any Chinese at all, right,
mm,
you would recognize the name as highly probable that it's
yeah,
Chinese, and so
yeah,
it automatically becomes a third world case, a
yeah,
person of color case, right? And so that's what makes it wonderful. That's what
yeah.
really makes it wonderful. Not just that specifically it's Chinese, but that it would apply to all people of color in similar circumstances.
And the fact that it stood up since 1898 is really remarkable because throughout the 70s and 80s
Oh
and the
yeah, sure.
90s and the early
Especially
2000s.
in California.
Right. I mean, there have been attacks against birthright citizenship, and every time it comes up, you kind of want to roll your eyes and say, "Not that again, not that again," and it's always been strong. The feeling, for birthright citizenship that it has never gotten to this stage, but it has. Is it
Yes.
just Trump? Is it not just Project
No.
2025, but is it just Trump? What got it to this stage? So is it the browning of America, that fear,
Yes,
that xenophobia?
it's the coloring of America. No, it's not
Yeah,
just the browning, but I mean, yeah, that's probably a majority of the direction of tint.
yeah,
But
yeah.
that is it right there. But it's not only that it's turning. See, when you say the browning of America, that raises not just a racial, perspective. It's a color line. Okay, it's
Mhm,
clearly a reference to color. That's too simple. It's not just about color. Okay, because if we were people of color, but we didn't challenge anything about the existing norms, values, and status of people of color in American society. If we didn't
mhm,
challenge white supremacy, then everything would be fine. They wouldn't care that we're a different
yeah.
color as long as we play by their rules. Okay. What has happened is simply by trying to live the American dream, we have moved from poverty, abject poverty, right, where
Mhm,
most people of color were before 1970 or so, right, before the Second World War for sure, right, when racial segregation was the absolute rule of the land of the entire country, right, where the miscegenation didn't get struck down in California until 48, and it didn't get struck down as federal law, federal court
60s.
decision, until 1967. Okay,
Yeah.
so a lot of the people that experienced that are, in our age group or slightly younger, and they're familiar with that. It shocks the younger generation when they hear how recent those kinds of decisions were made, and now they're watching the reversal of those decisions by a single court. By a single court. It took decades, it took generations for
Mhm,
people of color to get any kind of movement towards equity, social, economic, political access, right? It took generations to get to that point, and we didn't realize it in real terms until the early 1970s. It
right.
looks good in the mid 60s because court changes, right? Court makes decisions that move in that direction. But how is it felt in real terms on the ground for people of color on a day-to-day basis? They still had to go to court. They still
Yeah.
had to get zoning struck down, right?
Right.
Redlining, all those kinds of practices having to do with economics, home ownership, right? Among the
Mhm,
top. One of the top values in American society is being able to get a job, get an education, get a job, and be able to afford a home because you had adequate income, right?
So Dan, in terms of reversals, if this happens and they reverse the 14th Amendment and birthright citizenship, I guess it would be right up there with the reversal of Roe v. Wade.
It's even beyond that, because the application of Roe v. Wade affects specific people. It affects women. Okay,
Mhm,
okay. Birthright citizenship would affect everybody, regardless of race, class, gender, sexuality. It would
mhm.
affect everyone.
And if you are out to make policy based on xenophobic perspective, an anti-racial perspective, this would be your home run.
Oh yeah, this would be a great. I would say this would represent for me the middle of the road towards an I can't say absolute, but a nearly absolute establishment of white supremacy in American society.
So, like a complete reversal of Civil Rights Act, voting rights. I mean, it would really go beyond.
Yes,
And if you were talking about a regression, a
yes.
regressive society, a regressive America, this is it. We're in it, and this is the
We're
home
about
run.
halfway there. We're about
Yeah.
halfway there. This would to me represent about a halfway movement. Now, you also said that the court could just say no. This is a state's issue, and let the states decide. That might not apply to birthright, but it could apply to other cases, right?
Yeah, because
The, the,
only
the
citizenship.
resistance,
Yeah,
yeah, the
only
resistance to
citizenship.
civil rights, the resistance to the Civil Rights Act, the resistance to all kinds of civil rights oriented changes that were made
Mhm.
beginning with, Wonka Mark, right?
Yeah.
Beginning with that, okay? All of those changes that occurred gradually, right, through state Supreme Court decisions, usually California Supreme Court decisions, right, leading the way, uh, uh, and later Supreme Court decisions following the Civil Rights Act, right? Uh, those things could can easily be reversed by this Supreme Court. Those things can easily be reversed by the Supreme Court, and there's nothing that can be done about it except by action of Congress. And then, even if Congress acts, even if the Democrats win both houses,
Mhm.
and even if they present very, very, very aggressively policy changes reflected in new law, right? New bills, the president still has to sign off.
Oh yeah.
So there you go. So even if they win everything except the presidency in next year, okay, in November of 26, he gets to sign off. And so
And
then the question is, how the hell are they going to be able to get this guy impeached? And the only way that will happen, right, is if Republicans play. Right? I don't think they're going to do that. I
yeah.
think a lot of these people in so-called red states, they know that MAGA influence, however dwindling it is and however weak it's becoming, right? It's still
Yeah.
going to be enough to keep them out of office. It's still going to be enough to end their political careers.
So they're riding it. They're riding with it, pro
They,
MAGA
they
right to
have
the
to. They
end.
don't have any choice if they want to stay in office.
See, there was some hope with the Epstein files and the rejection of Trump
Uh,
there, and maybe even with the quarter term vote that it looks like people were talking about Trump's numbers, his approval numbers are so low. He looks down and out. But then you take an issue like this that comes up that the Supreme Court, well, I think the key is as long as he has the Supreme Court, he's got a lot more power than people think.
and how often have I been saying that?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I just our last conversation, our last
Yeah.
two conversations, I said, look, you can forget about thinking that the Supreme Court is going to do something different. You follow the pattern that they have established, okay? And you damn well ought to presume that that's the direction they're going to continue to go in, okay?
Yeah.
And only then will you start to think of ways that you can combat this. You got to stop thinking that you can hope romantically that the Supreme Court is going to do something right.
All right. So, what people listening to this? They're people of color. They're Asian Americans. Um, they're alarmed by the taking away of this right. What should they do? Is it Congress they need to lobby, or their friends? What
Yes,
can they do
yes, both,
practically?
all of the above, all of the above. Okay, I don't think we're ever going to get them to. I don't think we're ever going to convince them to stop watching whatever they're watching that
Mhm.
validates the Trump administration's statements and positions and actions on any of this stuff. Okay,
Yeah.
what they're looking at is either an omission of the actual news, the actual actions, right,
Mhm.
of Trump and his entire administration. Okay, or they're seeing outright contradictory propaganda. Okay,
Yeah.
absolute propaganda. It's lies. Did you see
Yeah.
Tom Cotton? Did you see what he said today
And
about
no,
the Venezuelan? Okay, he said what I saw were two guys that were standing on the hull and wave, and one guy was acting like he was sunbathing. He actually said this. Said, and he took
and
his
that's from
T-shirt off.
and that's
Okay,
from film, old film or something.
no, it was actually what he described that select group of Congress people were
Mhm.
able to see right in a closed session. Okay,
Yeah.
and so he was saying. Now I'm thinking these guys hear an overhead aircraft, and when they got shot down and they're still alive, right, and the boats flipped over, and the guy took his shirt off because he's saying we surrender and please rescue us. That's my understanding of what the in all probability this guy was doing, and they
Yeah.
shot him anyway.
Yeah. They
They
were
shot him
looking for
four
help.
times.
All right.
The
So,
admiral's in trouble. I'm going to tell you right now, he's in trouble.
well,
I cannot imagine how this guy. No, wait, I take that back. I can't imagine how this guy must feel. I
well,
mean,
he he
he's
already
done.
he already he already got thrown under the bus. But this
Yeah,
now
but he's
we're
got to get convicted of something. That's
yeah
the next question, right? Is there going to
yeah
be a
oh yeah
military tribunal, right?
yeah
And how
right
far are they going to go? Are they going to pull a Milai, decision? Oh, and another one of the things that irritated the hell out of me is that some of the commentators and hosts on the talk shows, the panel shows, right?
yeah.
They're saying my lie, my
Yeah,
lie. I mean,
they don't know. Yeah, it's a generational thing. It's like if you mention the Vietnam War, it's like you're practically talking about World War I, and it's sad because I've seen only one commentator really responsibly mention My Lai and what it meant and how what is going on in Venezuela is on the level of My Lai because
yes.
it was a war crime. And back then when the when the verdict came down on Cali, there was an understanding about where American ethics were in terms of war, and Cali
Well,
was
yeah,
a
you're
villain.
right. You're right. You are right. And that was on the conscience of all of the people who served during the Vietnam era, whether or not they actually served in Vietnam. Okay. The thing is that let us not forget that that's as high as it went in terms
Yeah.
of actual convictions and punishment by imprisonment. Right. It went only as high as Cali. And the guy that was taking the brunt of the blame was Medina. Remember the sergeant?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
a person of color. That's the way it works. And so
Yeah.
the only thing, the all of the upline, right, brass
Yeah. They were protected.
associated, yes, all they had to do was resign,
Yeah.
and they didn't lose retirement or anything. All they had to
See,
do was resign their commissions.
well, so look, this is just another one of those things where all these issues, any one of them would be like major headlines. We're still
Yes.
talking about the Venezuelan boat, and now
Yep.
we have the birthright citizenship, which should be even more alarming because it goes right to the Constitution, overturning the Constitution. But we have the third thing we were going to mention. We talked about the Venezuela boat thing, so that snuck in there. But the other issue we're going to talk about was the gerrymandering
Yes.
decision by the
That's
Supreme Court
yeah.
that was late yesterday, but
Yep.
essentially it said Texas, your maps are okay, go to it. And what does that signal? It's a victory for Trump, victory for the Republicans. What does that
In
signal
all
to
of
the
the red states,
Democrats?
all of the red
Yeah,
states have a choice now. All
yeah,
of the red states, the states that have a majority of Republicans in their legislatures, they
mm,
have a choice now, and it's not a simple choice. That's the interesting thing, right? First of all, let's dispose of the nearest decision, made by the Supreme Court on gerrymandering, and that was the Rucho case,
mm,
Rucho versus Common Cause.
mm,
I don't know if people, that rings a big bell for us, right? You and I.
yeah,
Common
yeah,
Cause is a nonpartisan approach.
mm,
It doesn't mean that there aren't any Democrats or Republicans involved in Common Cause. What it means is there are people who are partisan, there are people who are independent of the parties, right? But they all belong to Common Cause, and what they want is they want fairness in the system. Okay, and so Rucho was a right winger and from North Carolina, is my
mm,
recollection, and a very red state, right? And so he took actions against Common Cause and said it should be legal for them to gerrymander at will. And in this decision, the Supreme Court said, well, you might not like. I mean, they actually discussed it in these terms. It,
yeah,
it might seem unfair or unethical, and but it's not unconstitutional. We can't touch it. The federal courts cannot make these decisions because it did. And here it comes. It's up to the states. The states can do it.
yeah,
Now, remember our history, right? What
mm,
was states' rights used to do for over 150 years? States' rights were set. Anything moved towards the treatment of people of color. Native Americans, for example, right? Uh, People of Mexican descent, you know, Mexican immigrants, all of that stuff, all of those kinds of decisions that were resisted from the right were all done on the basis of states' rights, all the way up to and including the Civil Rights Act, right? The
Yeah.
Voting Rights Act, and everything after that.
So
States'
yeah,
rights, states' rights, states' rights.
it was the justification for the Civil War, right? I mean,
Yes, yes.
and so what we have here, even though it may not seem as direct as birthright citizenship, which would overturn the 14th Amendment, we have something that is
A
very,
section of the 14th Amendment,
yeah,
one section of the
right,
14th
a
Amendment,
section
but
of it, right.
it's the first section, right?
Yeah.
All persons. Oops, what happened? Hello? Come back, Emil.
Oh, there he
Oh,
is.
there
He's
he
back.
is.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
that's the real threat here. And it happens in every state.
Maybe they think you weren't born here, or
What?
maybe they think I wasn't born here. Whatever. Okay.
Well, that this is the thing. How far back on birthright citizenship? How far back will they go?
Yeah, that's
Will they
right.
go back? Will they go back?
Retroactively.
It's for undocumented
Yeah.
and people who aren't citizens. But would they go back and
Yeah.
check every second generation person?
They want to render us truly un-American. They
Yeah.
keep saying things that are un-American. The left and the right both accuse each other of being un-American, and I keep saying, "Will you please stop saying that? Because all of the stuff that we're doing is American. If you're
Yeah.
doing it, it's American. You know, if you're putting people in jail, if you're handcuffing people, even though they're screaming, 'I'm an American citizen and my ID's in the car,' and all that, right? And then they don't release them for a couple of days. Recently they released a woman. See that woman that got busted in Scrubs,
Uh,
because they were after her boyfriend or something because the car was registered in his name, so they were looking for him. And that was recent. That was just within the last 24 hours, and
yeah.
she's screaming her lungs out, and it got broadcast because a reporter had been given a tip that ICE was going to be in that area, and he was just hanging around waiting to see them bust somebody. And sure enough, he caught this stuff live and in action and put it up on the web. So that's journalism. Remember,
Yeah.
I'm
Well, I
hearkening
mean,
to your last conversation, which is the youngins don't like journalism. Well, that's
well,
too bad.
they want the if they see it, seeing is believing as long as it's not
Instagram, man.
propagandistic, unless it's
In,
not
in,
AI or fake. But that's why the journalism through their phones. They got the goods. They got the
Man,
video.
they don't want to
That's
read. Okay, they don't want to read. And you've
yeah.
always asked me to reflect on my own experience, and we all say the same damn thing. Young professors that join us, and they're starting to teach their courses, and they say, how do you get them to read? And
Uh,
I said, you know what my answer is? Do you have a gun?
yeah. No, well, hey, look, there are all these apps that do audio, and you stick the word, or you stick the text, or you stick the website, and they listen to it, and it's like
I think it's
listening
our
to a
fault. It's
podcast.
our fault, man, because we got them to look at all that liberal crap that was being hashed out on NPR and public
But no,
TV. You
I
know,
don't know what it
you know,
is. I think it's I think it's the way it's taught in
it's
K.
Sesame Street, man. It was Sesame Street, dude. If you
Well,
can't make it, if you can't make it fun, then
yeah,
you're not gonna
make it
dig it.
entertaining. Yeah, infotainment. That's
Yeah, there it
I I
is.
I just know
South
that.
Park, South Park.
Yeah. Well, South Park is good. You know my view on
Oh,
South Park.
hey,
I think a lot of people don't realize how bad reading is taught in schools, and how people have issues when it comes to reading, and
oh
and
man.
it's a turn off. And I just know that if you're not ready to read by the time you get to college, you're not going to get through college. I mean, several classes I was in, the reading list for that, for college. My God, it's like, it's there's a lot, and I didn't have any apps, no apps,
No,
that you could.
it's freaking scary, man.
Yeah.
Especially if your professor was one of those people that was in love with classic kind of treatments of a specific
Oh,
subject matter, they'd be reaching back into the late 19th century, right?
oh
For
yeah, yeah,
very philosophical treatises on contemporary issues. And they
yeah.
give you all of that, and you're sitting there with a thesaurus in your lap, right? You know,
Yeah.
Eh,
Well, look, look at the model. If the model is Donald Trump, who doesn't even read a briefing,
yeah.
then people say, "Well, he's president. I guess we're okay." We'll get Classics Illustrated comic books, and we'll be fine. We'll read, one.
That's the irony. The irony is that print media got wiped out. Daily newspapers got wiped out because they lost advertising, right?
Yeah,
Subscription wasn't enough, and so they lost advertising, and that was the end of that. I see the resurgence of small papers now because online publication, right,
yeah,
has grown, and it's substituting for a print,
yeah,
and that's good. I mean, a lot of the sources that you and I use are quite good, quite
yeah.
dependable, even if they're a
However,
little conservative. Like the San Francisco
yeah,
Standard, I think is middle right,
yeah, and
but they do a damn good job. They
that's
do a
all
damn good
VC.
job of reporting.
Yeah, that's all VC funded. They've got some good, especially some good Asian reporters. But right. I'm glad we sort of veered on into media because that's sort of the other big news story of the
Well,
day.
yep,
That Netflix
merger.
is going. I mean, here's the thing about media: we love the media, or we no, not media, technology. We
Okay,
love technology because it makes life easier for us, but it complicates everything because it puts us on this moral plane that is not moral. That is, that
then call it
monopolies are good.
an
Yeah,
amoral plane.
yeah.
It's an amoral
It's an
plane.
aim because monopolies are good again.
Oh yeah,
Greed is good again. What technology has done is given so they used to say cocaine is God's it's God's way of saying you're making too much money. Uh, now, monopoly is God's way of saying you got too much money because you just want the greed factor. You want everything. You want all the you want to destroy your competition. That kind of greed mentality I didn't see until the internet boom happened, and people were getting rich off stock options,
sure.
and
Oh
people were
man,
making more money
that was
than
huge.
they could dream of. And suddenly, like 100,000 wasn't like the holy grail. The 100,000 was starting pay for a base level engineer, and it went up from there. So I know technology is really even though we're going forward in terms of some advancement, in terms of what the technology does for us, we're going backwards in terms
Yeah.
of, what's happening to us as human beings. I mean, AI, look at AI, what's happening to us in terms of our values. I don't know, it makes you want to not take a Waymo.
Well, yeah.
I mean,
I wrote off ever buying a
a
Tesla.
Tesla. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
long ago.
Yeah. I mean, a
So
Waymo is actually a good model for where tech
it's a Jag.
is.
Yeah, in
I
San
mean,
Francisco they're Jags, and it's a good car.
yeah, but what I'm saying, it's a good model for what technology is about because they get rid of the human and it's
Right.
all about the tech. And the humans are in the back seat, but they're not in control.
Well,
And there's no values, there's no morals, there's nothing.
we have a new competitor now in San Francisco.
I
It's
know
Zooks.
Zooks. I saw Zooks, yeah.
Yeah, I signed up.
And
I signed up for it.
sign up for Zooks. I hope
Yeah.
they don't crash on you. I
Well,
don't know.
that's the thing. That's the thing. I see it as like if you're just running around the neighborhood, you know, or you got a cheap parking space at a cheap lot that's like a half a mile or so away from your destination, right?
Yeah.
Then Zooks is cool, right?
Yeah.
But there's a whole lot of glass on that thing, and I don't know how it's going to hold up, if there's
Well,
an impact.
yeah, the thing is these the model is that they learn, right? They learn the next move just like AI learns the next word. And so uh I guess if you really wanted to have a driver, if you really wanted to have the Filipino, like remember Amos Burke and Burke's
Oh
Law?
yeah, yeah.
You know, remember they had the Filipino driver. If you really wanted that,
he,
here you can have a driver. You get a car, you get a driver. No, there's no driver. You're in the back seat. So uh, I
yeah,
don't know.
he wasn't only Filipino; he was Ilocano too. So
Well, that's
yeah, he was right.
Filipino. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I remember that
that's a
guy.
special kind of Filipino. It's a
Oh
special
yeah, I
kind of
know.
Filipino.
I know that. I know that.
A
Being part
lot
of.
of Filipinos, if you ask them, "Are you Filipino?" They'll say, "No, no, I'm Ilocano."
Oh well, that's what I am. I'm part of Ilocano.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm
Me too. Me too.
Ilocano, and then yeah. Well, you're Ilocano Visayan.
Yes.
I'm Ilocano Tagalog.
Yeah, that's right.
So we're both mestizos. We're
You're
both.
much more urbanized
Oh yeah.
on that one side. Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know Ilocano. The Ilocano. Oh no. Well, Tondo on the Manila side,
That's pretty
and
urban,
yeah, and Ilocos on the
right? That's right.
Nawag on the Ilocos
Lawag.
side.
Yep, we got
Nawag,
relatives in Lawag too.
Nawag.
I mean, we might find out we're related after all sometime. But
Yeah,
anyway,
yeah, maybe, yeah.
uh,
So Dan,
Lawag and Pawai. I got people from in Lawag and Pawai.
yeah. You know, I've never been. I guess now it's okay. There's a big road now. I can get to Lawag,
Yeah, it's
but
pretty. They got a lot of highways.
yeah. So,
Yeah.
Dan, as far as the gerrymander thing, I guess it's a good thing that the Californians voted for 50, right?
Yep.
Because
Yep. Well, yeah.
because then California will offset Texas, but if every other red state gets into the act, there aren't enough voters, are there? I mean, Trump can jury.
A lot of Republicans who want to stay in office and also who want to have their party and the country survive Trump and MAGA, right?
Mhm.
They're warning their populations that we should not go in that direction. And
Yeah,
there's conflict between Republican governors and members of their Republican legislatures at this point,
yeah,
because some of those members do not want to engage in the kind of thing that Texas has done and that California has done in
yeah.
response.
Yeah, it's not a necessarily the right path to just gerrymander the
That's
hell
right.
out of your state and essentially rig it for the Republicans because it may well I mean there will be limits, right? I mean how often you're supposed to do it every 10 years,
That's right.
but if you can replace maps every 5 or
Well,
maybe
that's
every
what
you
they're
do it
doing, right?
every session
Well,
you
the key to the SCOTUS decision is that I gave the very short final decision and
Mhm.
at least on allowing Texas to use this, but they said that it could be revisited, right? So they kind of left a little bit of an opening. The thing is, the rationale was that it's partisan act. It's a partisan act. That's what they were saying. And so, as a partisan activity, the decision for them that they took, right, to change this
Mhm.
was really about partisan. And the argument against that in
Was
Texas
race.
was it's race. And all
Yeah.
you had to do was look at who's affected, right?
Yeah.
And so, de facto, right, racism was clearly demonstrated, and the district courts, right, said that's unconstitutional.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad you brought that back because I think just talking about gerrymandering sometimes well the Supreme Court said, "Hey, it's a partisan thing, it's not a race thing, so it's okay because we don't do anything on the basis of race anymore in America, right?
Yeah, right.
We're colorblind. We should be colorblind."
That's why we got rid of Section 5, right? The
Yeah.
civil
Yeah.
of the
Voting Rights
Voting
Act.
Rights Act. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's the thing. I mean, nothing is settled. Everything is it's a perpetual argument, and that's politics, right? Because the
Well,
politicians need jobs.
it's politics that is reflective of social condition.
Yeah.
And that social condition, unfortunately, includes people who believe in the superiority of one race over others.
Well, that's true. I mean, no matter how many Ketanji Brown Jacksons, Sotomayors, Clarence Thomases, You
Well,
have on the.
how about no matter how many South Asian doctors are at the top of the field,
Oh yeah,
uh, are the consultants, right, to everybody about every area of medical professions.
yeah,
How about the supernumerary Filipino women in nursing and some men as well?
yeah,
Uh, the Asians all over pharmaceuticals, right?
yeah,
Including being in positions not only in the science end of pharmaceuticals, but in the administrative and also office holding end of of the. I'm surprised that we haven't seen major pharmaceutical companies established by Asians, right,
yeah.
to
Well, this
compete
is the
directly.
thing. The people of color are in all these areas,
That's
and
the
then
problem.
and then they almost lose their color. They become white. I guess, but they don't. They're not really white. I mean, the guy at Google is South Asian. Is he white? No,
Well,
but
I don't see. Are you meaning that they could become white in their own personal attitude, or in their
they're
perception?
seen as white.
Okay,
Seen
they're
as white.
perceived, right? Okay,
Yeah,
that's
perceived. I
right.
mean,
No, they're
does
not.
he become? They're
No,
not. They're
they're
not.
not.
See, I
They're
mean,
not.
because if he gets, I mean, Sushar, what's his name? Sushar Pindar or something. I
Yeah,
forget
something
his
like that.
name. But
Pindar
I
is his
mean,
last name. Yeah,
is it Pindar?
I think it is. Yeah.
Sushar. Anyway, I mean, he's a smart guy, but if he's in a walks down the mall and he doesn't have his Google T-shirt on, you know, uh, is our
Pinchai, pichai, pichai,
peach eye. Oh, that's a
pichai.
peach. Oh, that's a Filipino vegetable.
That's right, pichai.
Sure, peach eye. Peach.
So it's a dark green, leafy green. And as a vegan, you should take great
Oh
pride in
yeah,
knowing that.
yeah. All right, peach eye. Eat
You
your
know,
peach eye. But all right,
this
so
is really, yeah,
if
good stuff. Good
if
stuff.
peach eye walks out without his Google T-shirt, does he get harassed, or does he say,
Oh yeah,
yeah? I'm
I
sure he
think he's.
would.
Oh yeah,
I mean, this is
you
the
know,
thing.
without.
No matter how much money you make, no matter how many people you employ, no matter what your issue, if you're not, uh, you know, I mean the
Well,
standard is skin color,
unfortunately for him on the skin chart, you know, he's definitely a darky.
and
I mean, there are light skinned Indians. There are light skinned people of South Asian descent,
yeah,
just like there's light skinned Filipinos,
yeah.
right? And so light skinned African Americans, right? And so you can pass a little more easily, or you're less likely to be set upon by some attacker, whether they be attacking on with governmental authority or simply as someone who is angry, at people who look like us.
Hey, look, we owe Sundar Pichai an apology for screwing up his name. So
Yeah, what
he's a
I
billionaire, and I
we kind of we put the first letter of his last name with the and substituted it as for the S in his first name.
I see.
So we weren't that far off.
All right,
Okay,
so
we knew that
I
there was an
apologize.
undar in there
I
somewhere.
apologize, and
We got two syllables right the first time
yeah,
around, man.
but there, he's a prime example of a guy who is clearly head and shoulders above. But how is he seen socially in the world? In
Yeah,
and
yeah,
when push comes to shove, right? I mean, I
yeah, yeah.
remember when Joe Morgan. Remember the baseball player Joe Morgan,
Oh
who
yeah,
he was, wealthy baseball player, broadcaster. He got harassed by police. They didn't care who he was. They saw him as a
that's
black
right.
man, and that was one of the things where the lesson was doesn't matter how much money what kind of pile of money you stand on, you're still seen as a person of color if the standard in America is white supremacy. So
There it is. And like I said, I'm going to sound radical as hell again
mm,
when I say that is the element that has gained great strength.
yeah,
And even though they have limited representation in terms of people who actually are willing to act on that level of commitment
Yeah.
to white supremacy, the reality is that we're going to be subject to attacks, and we have to be careful about where we go on the street. I always say people, we're really lucky, those of us who live in the Bay Area, because the likelihood of those kinds of attacks is lower than it is in other parts of the country,
Yeah.
uh, including the big cities on the East Coast and in the Midwest.
Well,
Uh,
Dan, yeah. I mean, you're right. We're lucky because we look like the people who live here, right? And
that's one of the issues.
yeah,
The other thing is that um, the the commitment to racial ideology or racist ideology isn't as strong in this immediate area as it is elsewhere. You don't have to go far though.
yeah.
If you head up north on 5, you get into the area that was called Jefferson.
Oh yeah.
Uh, and there's big American flags on the entire side of a barn up there. And I remember in the 70s when I was on my way up to Washington with a friend who wanted to attend the college up there,
Mm.
they flew Confederate flags.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh
You know,
yeah. Here in California, they do that.
yeah.
So Dan, I was gonna like wind this down, try to not go an hour, but I did want to mention. I mentioned this earlier. Did you know Kerry Hiroyuki Tagawa? He was a Japanese American actor born in Tokyo. He was in Mortal Kombat, and he was in The Man in the High Castle. Did you know him?
No, I didn't know him.
I mean, did you know? Have you do you recall seeing him? I just
Oh yeah,
remember
sure.
his. I just remember his name, and I see him in all films that had Asians. I mentioned him. He died. He was 75. He died in Santa Barbara. And here's the thing: film roles in TV, movies. Started in 1987. He appeared in Bernardo Bertolucci's Oscar-winning film *The Last Emperor*, and I mention that because another one of my favorite Asian American actors, Victor Wong,
Yeah,
was in *The Last Emperor*. And
yeah.
Victor Wong, I knew as a kid when I was in high school. I knew Victor Wong. He was working at KQED, and I was like a high school intern, and we
Victor was
talked.
a great guy. He was
Yeah.
he was in on the I Hotel before it became a big deal. I
Oh
mean,
yeah. Well, he was
he yeah, he was
part of the
around.
scene.
He had a camera with him all the time. He was always
Yeah.
taking pictures.
Yeah.
Now that I see Cary Tagawa, he looks very familiar. He's
Oh
been
yeah.
in a lot of great movies. He's played
Anytime.
everything from hero to gangster,
Yeah.
and he was an excellent actor. Really
E-
good.
Every time you want an Asian in a movie, there's a list, right? There's a short list of Asian
Sure,
actors. And back when Bertolucci was doing his thing, Kerry Tagawa was there, and the Joan Chen, the Asian women, they're
sure,
right up there. Wayne Wang, the director, they were all part of that cadre. The Joy Luck Club,
right.
and then you had, like I said, Victor Wong. But when I saw this, he was born in Tokyo, but his father lived in Hawaii, and he was a military brat. He grew up mostly in the South, and so I just think when people see Asian and they see an Asian face in a movie, if you look for Kerry Hiroyuki Tagawa and look for his picture, and there he is there.
Yeah, he was really a great actor.
You'll say, hey, yeah, that's the Asian guy. That's the Asian guy.
Wow, he's two
And
years younger than me, and he's also a Libra.
oh yeah, yeah. Well, that's the other thing. I wanted to mention him because he's not that really all that old, really, when you think about it. It's just that he doesn't say what he died of, but he died with his family around him. And
Yeah, now you
it's a
made me curious about a little more detail in his life because there's some interesting things here. What
yeah,
I'm looking at says that he converted to Eastern Orthodoxy in 2015, and acquired Russian citizenship in 2016.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, we're gonna have to check this out, but yep,
Well,
that's
maybe he was CIA. I don't know. I don't know. It says he eventually began an acting career at age 36 after being a celery farmer, limo driver, pizza supply truck driver, and photojournalist. And he said in 2005, the good news for Asian actors in Hollywood is that it's better than it's ever been. But the bad news is that it hasn't changed that much. I mean, that's the
it's
thing,
true.
man.
That's
I
true.
mean, as someone who is on the low level of showbiz as a, comedian, solo performer, theater performer, I'm not looking for fame and fortune. I'm just looking for expression. But if people are out there looking, I was noticing just a couple things. I'm following an actor, Asian actor. He said, "Finally, 15 years, I finally booked a sitcom." He's on the Reba McEntire sitcom. Another, and then Lucy Liu did an interview with a publication saying, "Oh my God, I'm having a hard time financing this film, and I've been held back because." Yeah, I'm Lucy Liu. I'm famous. It's hard being an Asian American actor. Hard being an Asian American actor. So anyway, rest in peace, Carrie Tagawa.
Yeah,
Carrie
great actor,
Hiroyuki
great
Tagawa.
actor, great face. Well,
Yeah.
he's got.
All right, Dan. That's it for us. Hey, thanks for coming on to talk about the Supreme Court, birthright citizenship, and also gerrymandering. And
Yeah, it's neither of them are looking good, dude. So
yeah.
it
All right.
saddens me that we have to talk about these things this way, but people have to understand that it's going to take a lot of work, and you're going to have to pay attention. And you have to get good facts and make decent decisions, and then act on those decisions, even if it's only to just talk about these issues in a fact-based manner with your friends, neighbors, family. That's what needs to be done. I'm going to do that today. I'm going
All
to
right.
do my weekly call to another set of the relatives, one side of the relatives, and bring up these issues.
All right. All right. Well, listen, Dan, I appreciate you always coming on. Daniel Phil Gonzalez, my friend,
Thank you.
Professor Emeritus, College of Ethnic Studies, San Francisco State University, Asian American Studies Professor Emeritus. Thank you, Dan. Have a great weekend. Say hi to Linda.
You
Take
too.
care.
You too. And regards to the whole family.
Yeah.
Hugs to Kathy, please.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Dan. There he goes, my friend. It's tough. It's hard to but you pick yourself up, you keep going, you keep fighting, right? People are like, oh, we want those politicians to fight for us. Well, we can do a lot of fighting ourselves, contacting the right people like those politicians and Congress. I don't know. They've got their hand. We got our hands full. We've never had a news cycle, a presidency, a society where we're going backwards, all at once. Never had that before. Where we're supposed to distrust each other, hate each other, right? The guy who's ahead, the team leader, likes dissension, likes division. Never had anything like that. So let's begin the end of this show. Hey, I just want to remind you, I'm emceeing. Talk about the way society is. Penn Oakland is one of the few organizations that's for multiculturalism, for diversity, you think diversity and DI is dead? Not when it comes to Penn Oakland. Penn Oakland promotes diversity in the literary arts. It's the Oakland Penn, poets, essayists, and novelists. I'm on the board of directors, and I'll be emceeing the Penn Oakland Awards. It's at the Black Rep Theater this Saturday, 2 p.m. It's free. Come on by, see some famous authors. And it's at their at the Black Rep on Adeline in Berkeley. That's this Saturday, 2 p.m. Also, I'll be at the Marsh in San Francisco on December 15th, Monday Night Marsh, telling Christmas stories. Inclusive Christmas. How can you be inclusive and say Christmas? Yes, I can. I think I can. Also, check my website, amok.com, for new dates of my show, Emil and Prof 69, in San Francisco, January and February. Yeah, yeah. Okay. So, thank you. Thank you for being here. I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you hanging out with us, me and Dan. We were going to just run yesterday's show, but catch that. That was interesting. Yesterday's show was interesting. Today's show, kind of because of the birthright citizenship, man, we had to talk about that. Like Dan said, and that goes right to the heart of reversing the Constitution in a major way in terms of people of color in the United States. So, um, Sharon Salzberg, one of my meditation. I have multiple meditation teachers, but I came onto this early on in my meditative career, and I stumbled on it. And I didn't want to write my own. I like hers. I like her loving kindness meditation, and we like to end. And so, as I wish for me, I wish for you. May you be safe. May you be happy. May you be healthy. And may you live with ease. Emil Guillermo here. Have a great weekend. Look over episode 926, this one, 925. Check it out on YouTube. YouTube at Emil Amok 1. Till next time, mahal